Stream is live. Right.
Stream is live.
All right.
Hey, Patrick, how are you?
Doing great, MJ. Thanks for the partnership on this and joining me today to talk a little bit. I mean, I heard something's going on right now, so maybe we should.
I've heard that too. Could you maybe clue us in what might be going on out there in the world?
And the smile is half enjoyment to
Right.
see you, half coping.
Well, I had a full head of hair until about 3 o'clock yesterday. So
I always tell people, I'm glad I'm 6'2". No one can see the battle I'm fighting. So yeah, we wanted to jump on. Obviously, you guys are a great partner for us. You're a force multiplier in many different ways for us, from education, from technical advice capabilities to technical, straight up hardcore technical information. And we wanted to partner with you guys and be able to talk about what's going on. We've had a few other venues we've talked. I've been on, and some of my colleagues have been on, and we're going to be continuing to doing that overt communication as we navigate through what's been going on. What's been going on is we were ScreenConnect has a critical vulnerability, CVSS score, CVE score. CVSS score rated 10, which is about as high as you get.
yeah.
I can walk into, what is it? It's a critical vulnerability. It was reported by a security researcher to us, and through our responsible disclosure program. Can't say enough about this security researcher and how amazing they were to work with. But down and dirty, what it does is it allows an anonymous attacker to exploit an authentication bypass flaw. In doing so, it enables the ability to create admin accounts on publicly exposed ScreenConnect incidences. And I'll back up. Folks in the know will understand what that means. With a ScreenConnect instance that is out of your control, with admin accounts created that you don't control, MJ, you can understand the downstream effect that could happen on the MSP and their partners and the community writ large. But essentially, a bad actor can mimic the role as the system admin, delete all other users, and take over the instance. So that's kind of that was that was the vulnerability that was discovered. And I'll get into some of the steps in a second, but I can talk a little bit about the partner impact. Perhaps when compromised, and if the ScreenConnect instance is reset, it could remove all prior local accounts, as I said. To date, we've been working diligently again with the research community, and I'll get into kind of the time, bit of the timeline on the patching. As obviously, as most folks know, there is a patch out there available, and we're urging. I'll say this throughout this presentation: we're urging all on-prem ScreenConnect users, if you have not done so already, please reach out to the ConnectWise Trust Center. And check out the information there. All the instructions are there for downloading a patch, and I'll get into some of the other actions that we have taken as well, to ensure that to limit further exploit. But I'll pause for a second if you have any questions on that.
Yeah, I mean, not a question, but just a comment. You talked about the great partnership between ConnectWise and CompTIA, and we've got many other partners like yourselves out there, specifically around our cybersecurity programs for our members, and even for the community at large. And so our ISAO, our Information Sharing and Analysis Organization, which shares cyber threat intelligence. I know that team was in close communication with your team and with others, and we waited until we were certain, while we got an initial advisory out, to let people know that this vulnerability was out there. Yeah. I do want to acknowledge and really give you and your team a pat on the back for the level of transparency with which you've approached this. I'm sure these past couple of days have been no fun. I know our team was pretty consumed over the last day and almost 2 days now tracking this, but kudos for responding quickly, and most importantly getting very, very timely, accurate, and actionable information into the community's hands to be able to respond to this. And one thing I definitely like you to chat a bit about it, and our exec director of our ISAO made a post about this morning. You took an unprecedented step last night to kind of walk this down and prevent it from spinning out of control, which a lot of people were expecting. What can you share with us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me back up.
Sure.
And I'll talk about the process, which will really sets the stage for that unprecedented access. For our cloud partners, so I'm going to make a distinction between our cloud partners that we manage and our on-prem partners. All right, and on-prem is obviously infrastructure and technology managed by, solely by the MSP itself, right? But within 36 hours for our cloud partners, after confirming the vulnerability, we applied a manual mitigation for all the cloud partners for ScreenConnect, RMM, Automate, Host RMM. After completing this actions, that meant that all cloud partners were protected by February 16th, which was Friday. Now we had some Q&A and some blips, and we had to kind of do some validation. We had some hiccups from some connectivity issues and things like that. That was mitigated pretty fast without requiring any actions from the partner. So that was seamless. So then we began upgrading all ScreenConnect, Automate, Host, RMM cloud partners to our latest version, which obviously applies further hardening and reverts to our usual release process format. So they're back in the rotation, if you will, for just normal updates, which is very important. A lot of times people forget about that when you're doing emergency patching. You have to be able to enable that capability, because then you're going to be stuck on the road again. For our on-prem partners, as I said, different. Since the original verification of the vulnerability, our dev teams worked around the clock to develop a mitigation patch, and we released this on 15. Obviously, we released 15 February for the cloud. We had to get through that, and then on Monday the 19th, we, as everyone knows, we announced that for our on-prem partners. But because many of the on-prem partners are often a bit slow, some could be a bit slow to update their instances, and that's for many different reasons, sometimes out of their control. We took that drastic step. We rolled out an additional mitigation yesterday for unpatched on-prem users that suspends their instances if they're running an outdated version. And if the instance is found to be outdated, the partner received an alert and contains instructions on how to update. And kind of goes back to what I talked to you about. It reverts them back to instructions how to safely update their version to make them secure. Now, with the rendering useless of that action, sure, a bad actor could see, and the vulnerability basically would be, they could see it. They could probably they can't create new admin accounts. Is basically what that does, right? And again, we're seeing really good traction on folks. Seeing really good traction with the folks that had not been patched yet, and some of the unmanaged. When I say unmanaged versions, right? Some folks that had fallen out of subscription. We didn't make a distinction there. We wanted to make sure we got to those folks too. This is not a time to it's not a time to move on, to not support regardless if it was managed or unmanaged. So we wanted to make sure that those were included as well. So that's where we're at. We pulled the cord, if you will. It was nervous, but it was something that had to be done. We had to protect this community, this ecosystem. As you know, we work closely with CISO on information sharing through the JCDC, and there's just so much critical infrastructure at stake with MSPs. The equities that they play of what they support. This really, it was hard, but not hard in a sense, if that makes sense to you. So.
Yeah, it does. But you raise a really interesting predicament there, right? Around some basic cybersecurity hygiene. I was, when I had my MSP, I was an MSP for almost 25 years up until about the 2018 timeframe. I had on-prem ScreenConnect at one point in time. How do you deal with, or I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase this, but certainly good cybersecurity hygiene says that you keep your subscription current, you keep your licensing current, you keep your servers current. What MSP doesn't hound their customer about patching? What MSP doesn't include, patching as part of their basic service offering? Yet so many times it's the cobbler's kid, right? The MSP is enforcing patching on their customer, but resisting their technology partners, their vendor partners who are critical for their stack from doing the same to them. So, what you just described about not just addressing those who had current licenses, but those who might have had expired licenses to mitigate the potential impact. that must have been an interesting internal discussion.
Yeah, it was. I can't. Again, you know me. I've come from the government. I've seen beyond the wall, if you will, when it comes to incident
Right.
response. I've been doing cyber operations as a response for my whole career. Even with much larger organizations in the private sector, I can tell you, that decision would not have been made that efficiently and that fast. I'm not trying to brag here, but was just the flexibility of this company and reaching, and really taking our stakeholders' opinions into matter as well, right? We didn't do it in a vacuum, right? We value folks that have a really ground truth opinion of how this would impact or how it would go over, right? So taking those into account, and with Jason McGee's leadership on this, right, it was turnkey in a sense of executing as well. He leaned on me for a risk decision, right, and that's a tough one as a CISO. You're judged on your failures, not your successes. Right. But I'm confident that we took the right steps, and I really appreciate the feedback from the community and the support from the community. Again, this doesn't get us out of the woods yet, right? We're still fighting the fight, right, and we're still helping our partners fight the fight. We have a lot of our ticket numbers are up, and we're knocking through them right now and assisting as fast and as hard as we can. It is an all hands on deck endeavor. And again, we're gonna, the dust is gonna settle, and we're gonna share as much as we can our lessons learned from inception to recovery, as you should for any incident response, right? But yeah, it was tough, and there's still some nuances to it, and we know not all things are created equal. Like, not all folks have the ability to reply and to up-patch as immediately as everybody would like. To your point. We understand that sometimes there's communication challenges, right? We have to make sure we have the right contact information, in our Salesforce instance. And we've been actually purging a lot of that in a good way, right? To make sure we have primary, secondary, tertiary contacts, right? To make sure that the right folks and we understand sometimes they're missed. But we're just banging away right now, making sure from a sales standpoint, from a support standpoint. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So.
I mean, that makes sense, and that's why that's why we've got the ISO, right? It's about being, to your point, being that force multiplier, and that's why we took the information as soon as we got it and could validate it, and we've actually made it freely available to anyone out there in the industry, because if they're not watching your trust center, which they absolutely should, that's what every partner of any vendor should do. Yep. We've done this, I think, 3 times now in the last 4 years when there's been a really potentially significant event. One had to do with one of your competitors when there was a big event a few years ago. One had to do with the onset of the unfortunate conflict in Ukraine, and then we decided to do it with this because the initial reports were that it could be a pretty significant event. And it's nice to see that so far through all of the channels. Good for you for getting yourself out there in as many different. I know it's not easy, right? You got a few things going on, but yet you've taken the time to get out there in different platforms. This one, at the moment, to spread that message. And so, anyway, as a neutral trade association, we can help amplify those messages. We're certainly happy to do, and happy to help spread the right word in the right way so that things are done properly. But so much of it, I just keep coming back to the cyber hygiene question, right? So much of it comes back to good basic hygiene and doing the right things with your systems. Because at the end of the day, that's where the trust, that's where it hits. That's where the buck stops, right? The customer has to trust that their partner is doing the right thing. The MSP needs to trust that their vendor partner is doing the right thing. So there are a lot. I think there are a lot of good lessons here, and I really appreciate your comment about making sure that you're transparent and sharing the lessons learned. Because I was just having this conversation with a completely unrelated organization the other day, but there's still too much of a culture of can't even say it, cyber shaming out there. Far too many people are afraid to come forward and put their cards on the table and share what's happening in real time with, the updates as they get them. all with the right intention of not letting something spiral into more than it can be. Until more organizations do that, we're going to keep fighting, disruptive fires. So, the feedback I'm seeing out there on Reddits and different forums all over everything that we've seen has been, a pat on your back. I'm not trying to sugarcoat anything here, or I'm not trying to suck up to you, Patrick. That's the bottom line. But credit needs to be given where it's due and held up as an example for others. And I think you've really approached this in the best possible way, not just for ConnectWise, but more importantly, I would argue, for the entire industry to really understand there's a right way and a wrong way to respond to this. And sure, your analysis may ultimately determine that you did a couple things wrong. No one's perfect.
Yeah.
But the fact that you're stepping up and saying, we're going to share all that, I can't get behind that loudly enough. That's
I always
commendable.
I share with my internal team a lot. You can see the sign on the back, with my Army infantry roots. It's either lead, follow, or get out of the way. So, so that might be my next LinkedIn post. And you go. You can find positives and negatives in that comment for sure. So, and we were talking, I think you had I can't remember what the question was, something about my perspective as a CISO outside of this event, if I was on what was your question about that? I can't remember.
As a CISO, you're always fighting these risk management assessments, right? People forget how, you mentioned, I think that when you were talking earlier about conversations you were having with Jason, Jason said, I need you to make a risk management call here. You need to make a risk assessment. And that's an area, an educational opportunity for all MSPs to improve, because I don't think most approach things with risk in mind. So, what I was getting at is, okay, you're in the middle of this response right now, but how daunting is it to literally be doing a real-time risk assessment almost every minute of every day in your role, given the type of organization that you are and the products and services that you provide to your customers? I got to believe you're almost locked in this never-ending risk assessment hamster wheel.
Welcome. I make a joke with my son in college, and my son is junior in high school, that they grew up, unfortunately, with every risk was assessed throughout their lives. But I can tell you, in
those poor kids,
especially the athletes. But in this world, I would say, what I do is I take the lens as a CISO of a company. So I flip the script, right? What would I be doing? Right. So I go from this, I use the perspective of, okay, if this was happening to me, what would I be doing right now? Right. And how can I relate that back to the informed decisions that we have to make, on the other side? So, and we do that on the business side. It's not just a risk decision. Honestly, you understand this, as an MSP owner, right? There's business, this was a team effort for sure, in a sense of assessing the risk. It did not happen on a silo. And I present our side of it, right? Our side of it is myopic in a sense, because of where we're focused on, but we get our business folks on. And again, our product and this on the CTO side of the house with those folks as well. And we bring that all together. But what I do is I kind of say, okay, what would I be doing as a CISO or as a security lead of a company, or an MSP if this was happening to me, right? And we should also talk about, listen, trust but verify, right? We've pushed this information out. We've given them a patch, but if folks are not going and running their playbooks, right? And by the way, I made my team run our own playbook, right? For our own infrastructure, because we use the product, right?
Yeah.
One of the first things we did is we listen. We have to do this internally. So what we did is had a separate team that probably wasn't too happy. I said, we need to make sure that we go through and do this as well. But I want folks to understand that they need to check, trust but verify, right? Run your playbooks, run your vulnerability management checks, right? Understand your attack surface from this point of view, right? and look at, check out your logs. If you have a SIM, if you have EDR, MDR, right? Be aware of what's going on during this, this quote unquote storm, if you will. Right. Also, I can't say this enough, and I raise my voice when I say this. Please monitor your emails for phishing. Threat actors, obviously we see them are hitting this vulnerability pretty hard, but we're also seeing an uptick in phishing emails themed around this. So please be careful with what you click on, as folks always do. So keep your vigilance above. And I think MJ, maybe we could talk offline, maybe put out some communication around that topic as well. So.
Yeah, that's a great point, Patrick. Whenever you see something like this go on, you always see the pile on bad actors trying to extract some other angle on this. So, I'm sure we're going to see a plethora of false information purporting to be from ConnectWise or related to ScreenConnect. So you have to raise your overall level of sensitivity and skepticism. You have to be, hyper skeptical during times like this, let alone, our CISO says it too, always skeptical. He's on us as an organization all the time about that.
That's where the downfall is.
Skeptical. Right. It's like I hear him and I hear you at the same time. I don't know how you two talk through each other like that, but I think it's a common thread that more and more CISOs are rightly addressing with their teams.
I want folks to have a bias for action on, obviously I know I'm saying things that most people know, but again, if I was on the other side of the coin, and I have been, trust me, in my whole career, right, is trust but verify, but bias for action, just have a bias for action. And if you have a question, concern, complaint, or a challenge, right, raise it, right? I get it. I totally understand. It's incredibly some of the perspectives we're seeing, some of the comments. I mean, we've done a number of events. We've been posting things gone crazy posting things on social media, and we're monitoring all of that. And honestly, folks are sharing information with us, and some of it has been some pretty amazing nuggets that we've given to, say, our threat intel groups that have been pulling those apart and going, oh, this is interesting. We want to make sure that we're understanding who's trying to exploit this, so we can provide feedback to our partners, but also, writ large, again, I go back to that critical infrastructure community, what we can share with CISO and again, our partners as well, and within the community. So.
No, I mean, you mentioned the JCDC earlier, the Joint Cyber Defense Collaborative. We're part of that as well. Many other vendors in the channel are part of that, and that's a critical community that's trying to help everyone stay ahead of these these threat actors. And whether it's the ConnectWise partner community or something like the CompTIA community or other communities that are out there, relying on that community to help you separate what's reality from what's not. I was really thrilled to see one of our members. We have something called the emergency response team, which was something that a member came to us after going through a brutal cyber attack and said, hey, could CompTIA get behind the idea of putting together a core of volunteers who would develop white papers, checklists, best practices to help any MSP that gets hit with a cyber attack or a cyber incident through those first critical hours, days of a response. Now, this is not incident response, as you know. It's not incident response, but it's just having a coach who's been through it and helping them through it. Well, one of our founding members actually posted and said, hey, if anyone should get hit by this ScreenConnect vulnerability, know that the CompTIA emergency response team is standing by, ready to help. Now, I want to knock on wood, but I guess I'll just knock on the side of my head. But I'm thrilled that we haven't seen that activated yet. And I think with hopefully with the additional proactive measures that you took, we won't see it activated for this. But again, just another example of how we can come together as a very broad, full community to address these things when they happen, and do so together in the best interest of everyone. Nobody wants to see an MSP get hit, no matter what the source.
And we want folks to, again, the word of the day is vigilant. Okay, this is we're still working through this. We're still helping partners out. Again, we're not we're not resting yet at all. We're still driving hard. There's going to be a lot of follow up work that go on with this, and I want folks to remain vigilant, to remain kind of on alert, if you will. Even if you are patched, just be aware. Again, it goes back to running your checks. If you have if you have a critical vulnerability playbook that you normally run it, right? If you outsource, your security, really reach out to those folks and take a look at what they're responsible for doing for you. Okay. And ensure that those things are being done. And, again, don't rest, never rest in security, but I stay on higher alert, so.
Yep. No, that's a great message. And I've said it a few times, but it all comes back to the basics, right? You've got to stay up on your patching. You've got to stay in close communication with your partners so that you know of any vulnerabilities that they may be seeing. You've got to get involved in a broader community. Obviously, I'm partial to ours, but honestly, any community that is dealing with cyber threat intelligence and sharing this information, in as real time as possible, and creating a safe place to help one another. You can't not do these basic steps in today's world to stay ahead of these things. And hopefully you won't reach through the ether and wring my neck for this, but I'll put you on the spot a little bit that you're planning to attend our CompTIA Communities and Councils Forum next month, March 11th to the 13th. So, Patrick's going to be there. And if you're planning to attend CCF as well, you can have an opportunity to talk to him face to face and pick his brain about, if you've got questions about what's going on in your MSP, what have you. I know we've got workshops on risk management and our cybersecurity trust mark and other things going on that I know you'll be hovering around. So if anyone, would like the opportunity to talk with you as an industry CISO and fresh off the learnings of this experience, that's a great opportunity.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I'm more than happy, and I'll in any forum that you guys can provide there, even if it's just informal ad hoc. I'm ready and willing as well. So, yep.
Yeah. Maybe we'll look to do that. We'd be happy to do that. I made a risk assessment right there myself and figured you weren't really going to reach through the ether and strangle me, that you'd embrace that opportunity.
I'm looking forward to it. I love coming to Chicago, so it's never a problem. So.
Oh, there you go. Well, listen, I think it's a real service to the industry that you and I know you're not the only CISO in the industry, but obviously, you're the man of the moment with the timely information about. We're
going to use the word team. Okay, that's there you go. So, yeah.
I love it. Yeah, it's I think it's really great that you're putting yourself out there, sharing all this information so freely, and that's a real I think you're setting a great example for how we can continue to evolve and do better when we have to respond to incidents like this. And I think we're just about at time, so I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to give this a wrap. But from my perspective, thank you for being a great partner to our ISAL and the other cybersecurity programs that we're running at CompTIA for the industry. Really appreciate your transparency and the information sharing that you shared with us, that you were sharing with everyone else, that allowed us to get our threat reports out and help anyone of our members, but more importantly, the entire industry. So I'll just say thank you, Patrick. I hope the days get a little quieter as the hours draw on, but I know you'll be keeping a close watch to this.
Thanks for your time, MJ. Thanks for the platform and for spreading the word and everything that that CompTIA, the ISAL does for us, for the community, and for the nation, to be able to not to sound a little too cheesy in that sense. You guys are doing more than for sure. And again, if our trust center is our single source of truth of what's going on officially. So a lot of we will repost a lot on LinkedIn and social media as well. But if you need anything, go back to that trust center and check it out. It's updated on a daily basis of when we have stuff to put out there. So again, thanks for the time, MJ. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Patrick.
Back to these 18
We're
chats.
Definitely better together. That's for sure.
So appreciate it, man. Take care.
All right. You as well.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.